Mics. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank y'all for being here. I know everybody's running around. We're down to T-minus 3 days and counting on wrapping up this year's session. And first and foremost, I want to thank our colleagues from the Senate for the work that they've put in on what we've got before us this afternoon, and more importantly, thank the staffs from the Senate Budget and Research Office and the House Budget Offices, Senate Budget and Evaluation Office and the House Budget and Research Office, and get them both right. But were it not for Martha and Christine and Melody and Brent and all the gangs on both sides, there would be no way we could get our job done. And certainly thank you to Kelly Farr and OPB and all the working relationship that we're building there, and looking forward to many more years of that going forward as well. But Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you again. I think this makes 9 years we've done this, and it seems like only yesterday we were still riding our tricycles and playing with the dog, but I feel like the budget that we've come to an agreement on going into fiscal year 20 starting in July 1st is one that all Georgians can be proud of, and one that we're certainly taking care of the needs of many individuals, whether it's young children to the elderly. One of the biggest items within the budget, of course, and working with the governor and OPB folks has been to get us to a July 1st start date on a $3,000 pay raise for our teachers and our certificated employees in K-12 education. So we've all been working very hard on that since January, and I know that OPB had been working before that on trying to get it together, even though they weren't officially OPB at that point yet. But thankfully we were able to get to that point and do several other really neat things, I think, that Georgians across the state will be proud of. And just give it to you to make a few comments, and I'll make some other comments as well.
Well, I certainly agree with you that this document is I think a dynamic document that really meets both our constitutional responsibility for safety and for education and those elements that our Constitution requires us to do. But beyond that, there's so many initiatives in this budget that meet the needs of those that are powerless and to some extent, children and elderly and mental health and other areas. Lastly, I think it also does a good bit to advance the objectives that Governor Kemp has outlined in his campaign and outlined since he's been governor, in addressing gang activity and school security and health as well. Efforts that your speaker has been in favor of, and health care and all the other areas that he's been active. This budget addresses those. Lieutenant Governor Duncan, his forward-looking technology look at the way state government ought to be run, the use of modern techniques and technology. I think we've tried in many, many ways in this budget to address those leadership ideas that those have, and we've followed in line. So I just appreciate so much both the members of the Senate and the House for their input. In Georgia, I believe we're a little different. We get a budget every year. It's balanced. We don't have a period of time starting in the beginning of the fiscal year. We don't have a budget like many, many states. I think we get together on the budget and move our state forward. I think that's one of the reasons that our state has succeeded and kept its bond rating and done all of the things that has made it such a great success. This is just one element of that, and I appreciate very much the opportunity to work with you.
Just, there's an awful lot of things that are covered in this budget. And it kind of appears new microphones might be one of those that we need to look at coming up. That technology, that's like so 2,000 ish right there. But we did make a few little changes in the bond package. Of course, we had put some things in. Y'all had put some things in. We've come to an agreement on a lot of items there, and some that they're going to take a little bit more time to work on going forward. And working with the governor and OPB and looking at, as we've done for the last 4 years, putting $100 million in for bridge repair, and knowing that we've got quite a backlog on just trying to get that work and those dollars out the door, that we've got quite a few dollars sitting there not used yet, are redirecting a little bit of that to a couple of other things. But one of the ones that I'm really happy about is something you and I both have worked on for several years, and that's trying to reinforce our state-owned rail lines and those short lines that are doing last mile service to a lot of rural Georgia, and trying to address those and start getting those up to Class 2 standards so we can get freight trucks off the road and freight on the railroad and to one point and from one point to another in a timely manner, to help with the containers coming in at the port and the containers going to the port. So $35 million kind of to jumpstart some of those efforts on rehab and getting those up to Class 2 standard to get us where we need to be. I mentioned to the speaker this morning about that. I said, we build buildings and take care of buildings all over the state, but we've owned some rail lines for an awful long time, and we've just really never concentrated on taking care of those the way we should. And I'm glad that we're finally making a good effort at doing that, and hopefully we're able to, for the next couple of years, to get them up to those standards and really help ease some truck traffic on not just I-16 but 75 and 85 with our inland ports, and be able to get freight in a timely manner to major manufacturers like Kia and Caterpillar and others around the state as well. So very happy that we're able to move forward on that too.
It's coming up, and we've begun the process of funding the early activities of the census group. That will be working on the hard to count areas. There's $1.5 million in there to begin that process of a statewide effort to those areas have been identified, and there's a group that's focused on hard to count areas. So that there's some new positions in revenue for auditing and for revenue agents to address some of the new challenges that as we expand our scope of seeking revenue, and those are newly responsible for collecting sales taxes, we're going to need the ability to go out and collect those taxes as well. One thing that you worked on a good bit was the CTAE equipment for our high schools and middle schools around the state. That ag and other school equipment's fully funded at $14 million or so. There's a couple of new items that were put in the conference. $13.7 million for the Savannah Trade Center, and $6.3 million for Lake Lanier Islands development. So those are items that are new to the budget from the conference. We've pretty much funded all of the half projects that, with a couple of exceptions, that were in both of our budgets. So the package is still within the exact same amount that was allowed by the debt management plan, the amount that the governor had recommended in the beginning. So we've kept to that amount, and I've done it all just by moving the numbers around. So.
Well, and one thing, we hit the ground running in so many ways on so many things. We forget about some of the things that we need to draw attention to. One of those, of course, quality basic education being fully funded again this year, and started that. Finally got to that threshold last year, and we're holding true to that in this budget as well. So very happy to be able to continue to do that. But on top of that, as the governor had recommended, 2% pay increases for all of our state employees. Not, teachers a little bit extra there for them and for the hard work that they do, but also recognizing that we have some very dedicated state employees that keep the state running every day and every year, and trying to recognize some of their increased cost of living in that pay raise as well. So a lot of things that I think folks will be happy with, and there'll probably be a few that ain't real happy with some things too, but we, as you said earlier, we do have a mandate to stay within a balanced budget, and sometimes that means that we have to look at things the next year and the year after that we don't get to do in any one particular year.
We appreciate y'all working with the staff as well, with both the chief financial officer and the head of OPB. We've had a great relationship in working with them, and continue to look forward to the next year. Kelly, you'll be an old pro by the time we come back next year. Nope.
His gray hair
He won't fall for anything after this.
Yeah, that's true. Want to see if our colleagues on the conference committee have any comments?
Who's first?
I'll go first. I'm very pleased, and I just want to thank you, Senator, and you, Representative England, for just a fantastic job in concert with the governor's office and the staff. I mean, just maybe the best budget I've seen in a long time, and I think it clearly reflects our new Governor Kemp's priorities and the priorities of us. We've worked together for years for a safer, healthier, more educated Georgia at every level, and I'm just really want to thank each one of you for your part in that, and the governor in particular. Thank you.
I would echo the Madam Speaker's comments that I think it's a budget that reflects the governor's priorities, and it reflects the well-being of Georgia, all of Georgia, and it lifts up some populations and helps populations, and it has some emphasis on economic development, education, safety, and those issues that make Georgia a great place to live and give Georgia a bright future, and it speaks to the quality of life in Georgia. And I appreciate the work of these chairmen and all these folks, and the governor's office as well, to making sure that we have everybody rowing in the same direction. Thank you very, very much for the opportunity to share a few words.
I really appreciate the Senate signing off exactly on the language we sent over to them on the budget. Isn't that? Yeah. No, I can only echo. Thanks to the executive branch and the legislative branch working together. I've admired the work of these two gentlemen for a number of years in the budget, as they've looked out for the physical infrastructure of this state and the human infrastructure. It's important to me and important to all Georgians, and I can only say thank y'all for that. Our confidence in you two gentlemen and y'all's work in the past and looking forward to the future makes this progress look pretty simple and pretty easy. But we know that it's not. But the confidence we have in y'all and what y'all have done in the past is really amazing to me, and how you stretch dollars, fit within the parameters of our law of a balanced budget is something that's special, and I think I know that it has and will continue to pay dividends for every Georgian. So I want to thank both of you and your staffs, of course, but I really want to thank the two of y'all for y'all's work. I really appreciate y'all, and don't take you for granted. Really appreciate you. Thank y'all.
He done broke it.
I'll just hold it like this. This is being the newbie. Obviously, this is my first time being this deeply involved in the process, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised of how well everybody worked together on it through the entire process. Helped develop this budget. You know, I called y'all out earlier and call you out again because I know that y'all did all the heavy lifting on this, and it makes everybody look good. I was extremely proud of the emphasis that we continue to put on education, and you've mentioned several of those issues that we covered in the budget earlier, along with healthcare, all while maintaining our state's position as a positive business climate for continued economic growth. So that was 3 huge wins amongst a whole bunch of other wins that we have within this budget. This has been it's been a phenomenal experience to watch it go through this time, and you know, it was a pleasant surprise. I appreciate all the work that y'all did on this. And I'll pay for that microphone.
Well, you ready to sign?
I want to say one thing to our majority leader's comment. You know, one thing I was told years ago as a young man was that you always try to leave something better than you found it. And I think that's what certainly Senator Hill has in mind as he and I work together. And I know I certainly try to keep that in mind. I know the governor's staff and the governor as well feel the very same way, and I know our staffs do, because they live it, they breathe it, and know it inside out, upside down, and backwards. And it's proof positive that they were raised much the same way that I was, and understanding that we have an obligation to our fellow man and other individuals to leave the place better than we found it.
Well said.
Here, here.
Probably happened somewhere.
That's why I gave half of them to y'all, Mike. I want you to have a confidence level there.
Yeah, I know. I've done that before, actually, on the conference committee report.
You
Done
have?
the wrong, put it on the wrong line. Oops. Oh, okay. Pretty good train. At least I can find my way around in the dark.
Yeah, there's no message.
Mr. Chairman?
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Congratulations.
We are adjourned.